Welcome to this 1-hour English lesson. Today, you're going to learn English with the news. We're going to read 2 different news articles together so you can learn a lot of advanced vocabulary, complex grammar, and correct pronunciation. Let's get started.
Should cats be allowed on airplanes? So this is an opinion-based article, and the topic is cats on airplanes. Now, let's say you are going to provide an answer to this question because it's a question, right? So if you want to sound more advanced, more professional, you can add an opinion word. You can say, in my opinion, and then you can state your opinion. Cats should or shouldn't be allowed on airplanes. So you can say, in my opinion, that's a very common one. You can also say, from my perspective. Now notice, it's from my perspective. In my opinion, from my perspective. These are the 2 most common opinion words that you can use. You could also say simply, I think. I think that cats should or shouldn't be allowed on airplanes. Now notice here, I included that. A lot of students get confused about when you need to use that and when you don't. Generally, in written English, we include that. I think that cats should. Generally, you can absolutely just say, I think cats should. Now, in spoken English, we generally do not include it just to make it shorter. And we say, I think cats should. So if you're writing, you can include it. It's more common. But if you're speaking, it's more common to omit it, exclude it. So here are some opinion words you can start adding to your speech. You can start right now and share your opinion about cats on airplanes in the comment of this video and use in my opinion or from my perspective. They will both help you sound very advanced. All right, let's continue on. At the Bogota airport, as passengers were placing their carry-ons, laptops, and purses in bins, inching their way on the conveyor belt for inspection. Okay, let's stop here. Carry-ons. This is absolutely must know for travel vocabulary. Most commonly planes, but you can also use this on trains, buses, most likely boats as well. Now, a carry-on is simply a bag that you carry on to the airport, onto the airplane. Excuse me, not airport, airplane. Now, a suitcase is generally larger and you would check that. So when you get to the airport, you check your suitcase and it goes under the plane. But then you take your smaller suitcases, your smaller bags onto the airplane with you. You carry it onto the plane. So here on Google Images, you can see the carry-on bags. Now, this right here that this man is opening, this is called the overhead bin, the overhead bin. And your bag must fit in the overhead bin or go under your seat in order for it to be a carry-on bag. So let me just write that here. So overhead bin, so your carry-on bag or suitcase must fit in the overhead bin or under your seat. And then we have larger suitcases. Larger suitcases are called checked bags or luggage, and they go under the plane. So they do not go on the plane with you, they go under the plane. All right. Now let's move on and look at this. Inching their way. So an inch is a very small amount. So if I say I'm inching my way, it means I'm making slow progress. So if you said, I'm inching my way towards the exit, it means the line is going very slowly. So you could use that when you're at a grocery store or when you're going through security at the airport. So you might say, I inched my way through security and it took me almost 1 hour. So if you use inch my way, the person understands you're making progress slowly. All right, one item stood out. This is a great phrasal verb, to stand out. And this means to be noticeable, to stand out, to be noticeable. So it's something that you notice more than other things. So let's say I have these 2 black pens, and maybe I'll take this purple one, because it's darker, right? And then I can take this one. Well, if I get rid of this one, this is a better example. If I have these 3 pens, which one, in your opinion, from your perspective, which one stands out? Which one is more noticeable? Well, the yellow one stands out, obviously, because it's a bright color. So this item in all the suitcases, this one item was more noticeable because there was a cat in the suitcase. That's why it stood out. One item stood out, was more noticeable. It was a cat, and its owner was putting it into a cabin-ready case. So a cabin is what I showed you in the picture. That's where all the passengers go when they're on a plane. They just call that the cabin. So that cat is going on the plane. Okay, let me just write out that example sentence with the yellow pen for you. The yellow pen stood out. So remember, this is a phrasal verb. You need your verb stand, which you conjugate. In this case, it's conjugated in the past simple. And then you need your preposition out. The yellow pen stood out. For most travelers, this would hardly be noticeable. Yet for me, alarm bells rang. Okay, let's take a look here. Hardly. This is an adverb. Hardly be noticeable. When you use hardly, it means a small amount. So for most people, they wouldn't notice the cat. It's a small amount that they would notice. So not very much, a small amount. There's another word that means the exact same thing, another adverb. You could also say hardly or barely. Hardly, barely. They mean the same thing in this specific context, a small amount. This would barely be noticeable. This would hardly be noticeable. And remember, instead of be noticeable, you can say stand out. This would hardly stand out. This would barely stand out. Yet for me, alarm bells rang. So just like Your phone rings, right? That's the verb we use, to ring, when you get a phone call. Well, that's the verb we use with alarms. Roo, roo, roo. That's ring. The alarm rings, and rang is just in the past simple. Alarm bells rang. I am severely allergic to cats, vulnerable to allergic asthma, and a cat was going to be sharing my cabin during the 6-hour Air Canada flight. Now remember, cabin is just used to describe the interior of the plane. That's it. So the interior of the plane, they call it a cabin. I don't know why. Interior of the plane. So it's where you sit, where your bags are, where the pilot is, everything on the inside of the plane. All right, what else? Oh, severely. So severely, this is an adverb and it's saying to a large degree. So remember, hardly was small, but then severely is to a large degree. So in certain contexts, you could think of them as opposites. So this is to a large degree. To a large degree. All right, let's move on here. Why are cats allowed? Yes, dogs are also permitted in the cabin, yet twice as many people are allergic to cats as to dogs, according to the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology. Let's take a look at yet, because I noticed they also used it here, yet for me. So yet. Yet is one of those words in English that has many different meanings depending on the context. And that's why it's so useful to study from articles, because you see the context that the word is being used. In this specific context, yet is being used as a conjunction. It's a conjunction. And it has the same meaning as but or however. So it's used to show a contrast. So here, let's look at our first example. Most travelers wouldn't notice a cat. I would notice a cat. Do you see the contrast? Most travelers would not. I would. So we have a yes and a no. There's a contrast. We use yet to help us transition from the one contrast point to the other contrast point. So you could equally say, but for me, however for me, yet for me, in this specific context. And it's the same thing here. So cats are allowed, dogs are allowed, but twice as many people are allergic. Yet, so we're setting up another contrast and we're using yet as a conjunction. Now, just as a reminder, all of these notes are available as a PDF download, so you can look in the description of this video to get this download. Let's continue on. Yet, twice as many people are allergic to cats as to dogs. Here, they chose to use as to dogs. Honestly, I would say than. So we have twice as many people are allergic to cats than dogs. That's what I would say, than dogs. And you're probably more familiar with that wording. So for example, more people buy dogs than cats. More people fly than travel by bus, for example. So just showing you that that contrast, that comparison with Dan. All right, let's continue on. Dangers of exposure. So what is a cat allergic passenger to do? So this person is allergic to cats. They get a reaction, but someone is taking a cat on the plane and they might be quite close to each other. So they're asking for advice. What is that person to do? And this is the advice. Take medications that help prevent symptoms, advises Randolph. So notice here, advises. This is being used as our verb. And the noun form of advise, we can use advice, which is the noun. What advice do you have for me? Because this person is asking for advice. What advice do you have for me? And I can say, I advise you to take medication. Advise, advice. So notice the pronunciation difference. Advice, advise. Advice, advise. This is our noun and this is our verb. Spelling difference and pronunciation difference as well. This includes a non-drowsy antihistamine taken an hour before the flight and 2 puffs of a rescue inhaler 15 minutes before boarding. So drowsy. Drowsy is when you feel sleepy or tired. If you feel sleepy or tired. Sleepy, tired. But when you say non-drowsy, it makes it negative because a lot of medication makes you feel sleepy or tired. It makes you drowsy. So a lot of medication will say on their label, do not drive after taking medication because it may make you drowsy, which means sleepy. But generally, drowsy is the vocabulary choice when we're talking specifically about medication. Now, if I had a long day at work, or if I didn't sleep very well, I wouldn't say I feel drowsy because drowsy implies the result of some sort of medication because we use it with medication. So if you're just talking about working hard or not sleeping well, you would use tired or sleepy. I feel tired, I feel sleepy. I am or I feel. Either one of those is fine. I am, I feel tired or sleepy. But if you're talking specifically about medication, then you can use drowsy. All right, so that's the advice, which is a noun. Let's continue on. A mask used to protect against COVID-19 could help prevent the dander from getting into your airways. Dander, that is something from the cat's fur. So little particles from the cat's fur is called dander. And that's generally why people are allergic to cats. It's the dander on their fur. Airways is, of course, just how you get air into your body is through your airways. So your nose is one of your airways and your mouth, your throat, is another one of your airways. So how you get air into your body. Now notice how they're using could as our modal verb because could is used to show possibility or potential. Possibility or potential. So it's not saying that it will help you. Will is a more of an absolute. This will work. It sounds 100% certain. This could work. It's just a possibility. It's also possible that it won't work. So could is used to show possibility. So this medicine could make you drowsy. Could, there's a possibility, the potential, and that's a modal verb. And remember, we always have grammatically, we always have modal plus base verb. So you don't change your verb that comes next. It's always the base verb. And could doesn't change either. This medicine could make you drowsy. Let's continue on. Is anything being done? Is there any progress in at least making the public and the airline industry aware of the cat allergy problem? We have been trying to raise awareness of cat allergy in cabins since 1985, notes Tanya Winders, president of the Virginia-based Global Allergy Airways Patient Platform, an 82-member network of patient-based groups, including the Asthma and Allergy Network. Winders points to the Federal Aviation Administration's Air Carrier Access Act, which is supposed to protect people with disabilities, including severe allergies. But the only protection the website offers is advice. Choose an airline that does not allow cats in cabins. Call ahead and check with your doctor. All right, so here, this is the advice. We have our noun here, and you can see those 3 points. That's what she advises using our verb. That's what she advises you do. Now let's go back here. There were a lot of very long names. Those are just the names of these specific groups or the specific act. You can just ignore those pretty much. What can I show you here? We have raise awareness. Raise is the verb you would use. You can also use increase awareness. Increase awareness, but raise is a very common verb with the word awareness. So you can add that to your vocabulary. Now notice we have since 1985, and when I see the word since, I can look back and I already know that my sentence is going to be in the present perfect. Now, what verb tense do we have here? We have been trying. We've been trying. We've been trying. This is the present perfect continuous. Present perfect continuous. And it shows an action that started in the past and continues until now. So when did this action start? Well, it started in 1985. So that was the start point, 1985, and then it's continued all the way until now, and it will continue until some unknown time in the future. So not too much on this last page because it was mainly those long groups, those long organizations. So what I'll do now is I will read the article from start to finish so you can focus on my pronunciation and you can imitate my pronunciation as well. And remember, you can also look in the description of this video to get the link that summarizes all the notes I made. So now I'll read the article from start to finish. Should cats be allowed on airplanes? At the Bogota airport, as passengers were placing their carry-ons, laptops, and purses in bins inching their way on the conveyor belt for inspection, one item stood out. It was a cat, and its owner was putting it into a cabin-ready case. For most travelers, this would hardly be noticeable. Yet for me, alarm bells rang. I am severely allergic to cats, vulnerable to allergic asthma, and a cat was going to be sharing my cabin during the 6-hour Air Canada flight. Why are cats allowed? Yes, dogs are also permitted in the cabin, yet twice as many people are allergic to cats as to dogs, according to the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology. Dangers of exposure. So what is a cat allergic passenger to do? Take medications that help prevent symptoms, advises Randolph. This includes a non-drowsy antihistamine taken an hour before the flight and 2 puffs of a rescue inhaler 15 minutes before boarding. A mask used to protect against COVID-19 could help prevent the dander from getting into your airways. A HEPA air filter, which most airplanes say they use, could also help, but not if a cat is sitting next to you. Is anything being done? Is there any progress in at least making the public and the airline industry aware of the cat allergy problem? We have been trying to raise awareness of cat allergy in cabins since 1985, notes Tonya Winders, president of the Virginia-based Global Allergy Airways Patient Platform, an 82-member network of patient-based groups, including the Asthma and Allergy Network. Winders points to the Federal Aviation Administration's Air Carrier Access Act, which is supposed to protect people with disabilities, including severe allergies. But the only protection the website offers is advice. Choose an airline that does not allow cats in cabins. Call ahead and check with your doctor.
Amazing job with that article. Now we're going to move on to the next article. Feel free to take a pause, get a cup of tea if you like, and let's continue on.
Welcome to our article. This is a lighthearted article about pets in the workplace. So let me read the headline. Pet perks tempt staff back into the workplace. There's already some great vocabulary in this headline right here. For example, the word perk. Do you know what a perk is? A perk, this is a noun and it's an advantage or something extra. This can be money or goods and you're given because of your job. So of course you get your salary, but perks are additional. For example, I could say, if I want to recruit you to work for my company, I could say, our company offers amazing perks. Now, what are those perks? Free lunches. So you get your salary, your paycheck, but you also get free lunches. So that will save you money. So it's like you're getting paid more. Free lunches, free gym memberships, and free language classes. Those are some amazing perks, right? What about you? Do you get any perks from your company? If you do, share some examples in the chat below. Okay, so pet perks. So these are perks related to pets. Pet perks tempt staff back into the office. So let's take a look at this. Tempt. This is a verb, tempt. And this means to make someone want to have or do something. So in our specific topic, they're talking about wanting the staff, the employees, to come back to the office. So to not work at home and to work physically in the office. So how are they going to tempt you? How are they going to make you want to? It's another way of saying convince. Tempt you, convince you, make you want to. Well, they can offer you some perks. And in this case, some pet perks. Do you have any pets? Do you think pet perks would be a good way to tempt someone to come into the office? Let's continue on with our article. Mr. Griffin, who I assume is this man in the picture with these two adorable dogs. Mr. Griffin, who is head of IT for marketing agency Rise at 7, turns up at its Sheffield headquarters with his furry friends Jesse and Oscar. So furry friends, this is a cute and casual way of saying the word pet. So you could say, I have pets. I have 2 pets. I have 2 furry friends. And those are your pets, of course. So I'll write that here. Pets. And the names of his dogs are Jesse and Oscar. I don't know which one is which. Okay, now let's take a look at this. He turns up at its Sheffield headquarters. So a headquarter is the main office of a company. For example, Google's headquarter is in California. I don't know if that is true or not. It's just an example. So this company's headquarters is in Sheffield. I don't know where that is. Now, he turns up at its Sheffield headquarters, the location of the office. Turns up, this is another way of saying arrive. It's a casual way, but a very common way. And the verb turn up is a phrasal verb. This is very commonly used. For example, what time did you turn up at the party last night? What time did you turn up? You can use this in more casual situations, but here they're using it in a more professional situation. But this is a more casual, informal article. This isn't a scholarly article or an academic article. So that's why they're using this casual phrasal verb, turn up. Let's continue on. Rise allowing dogs. Remember, his company is called Rise at 7, so they're just shortening it to Rise. Rise allowing dogs. The company allowing dogs in the office has meant that I've been able to take both my collies. Collies, this is a type of dog. So this is the breed. So we use that specific word, breed of dog, and that means the type of dog. And here the breed is collies, which is actually short for, what are they? I believe they're border collies. Border collies is the long name, and then people just commonly call them collies. So I just Googled it to make sure. And yes, the breed is border collie, but I spelled it wrong. So I need to correct that. And notice border collie, dog breed. And then you can look at the different pictures for this breed or find out more information. So I just corrected the spelling here. Now, what's your favorite breed of dog? I really love Labs, which is short for Labrador Retriever, but everybody just calls them the short form, which is Labs. What's your favorite breed of dog? Feel free to share that in the comments. Okay, so here, this man, Mr. Griffin, he can take his 2 dogs, Jesse and Oscar, into the office so that his company allowing him to do that, that is a perk. So here I could say our company offers amazing perks, like you can bring your dog into the office. That is an example of a perk for this company. Let's continue on. They get to meet new people. In this case, the they is the dogs. They get to meet new people, have new experiences, and I get to spend more time in work with my colleagues. So there's some benefits for the dogs. They get to socialize, meet new people, and there's some benefits for him, Mr. Griffin, which is he gets to interact with his colleagues. He gets to work with his colleagues. So do you think bringing a pet into the office is a good idea? Is that a good perk? Would that tempt, using our vocabulary, would that tempt you to return to work if you were allowed to bring your furry friend, your pet? Okay, let's continue on. It's a complete win-win situation. Now, I already explained what the win-win is. Remember, he listed some benefits for the dogs. The dogs win. They get to socialize. He wins because he gets to work with his colleagues. And the company wins because the company has the employees at work, which is what the company wants. So it's a win-win. Everybody gets what they want. So this is a good expression to have, especially when both parties have an advantage. It's a win-win. It's a win-win situation. I like this. As far as I'm concerned, this is a great way to express an opinion. Let me share an opinion. As far as I'm concerned, and then you can list your opinion. Perks are a great way to tempt people to return to work, to return to in-person work, of course, in-person work, as far as I'm concerned. And then this is simply my opinion. Now, you can put our expression at the beginning, or you can add it at the end. So you can state your opinion. Perks are a great way to tempt people to return to in-person work, as far as I'm concerned. And then you can just add it. So you can add it at the beginning or at the end. So feel free to practice sharing your opinion related to perks or pet perks in the comments and use this expression. As far as, notice we have our verb to be, I'm concerned. So if you were going to talk about a group opinion, you could say as far as we're concerned, as far as he's concerned, Mr. Griffin, right? As far as I'm concerned. So don't forget your verb to be and to conjugate that. Let's continue on. Like millions of other people, Mr. Griffin got his dogs during the pandemic. Did you get any pets during the pandemic? Actually, I did. I got a cat during the pandemic, and then I got a second cat a year later. So now I have 2 cats. But bringing cats into the office is not a good perk because cats are not meant to go into the office. They wouldn't enjoy that at all. Okay. With most of us home working, to be honest, I don't see it written like this. When I saw this home working, I thought of doing homework. This is not an expression I commonly see. What I commonly see is working from home. Working from home. Now, this is an article from the BBC, so perhaps this expression, homeworking, is common in British English. I don't know if that is true or not, but in American English, honestly, I have never seen homeworking. I thought doing homework. For me, I would say with most of us working from home. So if you are learning American English, I would recommend using working from home. With most of us working from home at the time, as a result of lockdowns, there was a huge surge. Surge is an increase. And when you say surge, it generally represents a quick increase and a big increase, an increase quickly and in the amount of the increase is quite large. So it would go from 10 to 80 in 2 hours. That would be a surge. We see this a lot with gas prices, right? Gas prices have increased quickly, but the amount of the increase is a lot. It didn't just increase by a couple cents, it increased by a couple dollars increase. So gas prices have surged. Gas prices have surged. There was a huge surge in pet ownership. So during the pandemic, many people bought pets. So the amount of people buying pets increased quickly and the number was quite large as people wanted increased companionship. While having dogs in the workplace is likely to remain a rarity, this comes from the adverb of frequency, rare, rarely, which means not a lot, not frequently. So they're saying that dogs in the workplace is not going to be common. It's going to be a rarity, something that doesn't happen a lot. This example is part of a wider trend. Companies introducing new incentives. An incentive could be a perk. An incentive is just something to try to get you to do something specific. And a perk is a type of incentive. So a perk is a type of incentive to try to make staff happier to come into the office more often. Job search engine Adzuna, I'm not familiar with this site, Adzuna, says that the number of adverts, this is another difference probably between British English and American English. We don't say adverts in American English. We just say ads. The number of ads, which is short for advertisement. So we just take ad from that, advertisement. The number of ads that highlight in-office perks has now more than doubled. So we could probably say has surged since before the start of the pandemic. So now people are searching for in-office perks as part of their job search criteria. They want perks. The increased incentives range from free exercise and language classes. That would be a great perk for you, right? If your company offered free English training, to complimentary food and subsidized childcare. Okay. So they range from to. When you use the word range from, you're going to have one end from this to this, and you're going to have a range, right? So you could say our prices range from $100, so that is the lowest price, to $500. That's the range of the prices, from to. Let me write that for you. Our prices range from $100 to $500. So here they use range from to. Now notice this word, complimentary food. Complimentary food. What does that mean? It means free. It's just another way of saying free. Free food, subsidized. If your childcare is subsidized, it is not free because that would probably be very expensive. It is not free, but it is reduced. So the cost is reduced, which means likely the employer will pay some of the childcare, but you still have to pay the majority of the childcare. That would be subsidized. So in this case, it's reduced, but complimentary, that means free. Let's continue on. employees aren't in a rush to return to the office, which means they're not doing it quickly. Because if you're in a rush, it means you're moving quickly. So rush, moving quickly. But notice, they are not in a rush to return to the office. So what about you? Are you in a rush to return to the office or no? After enjoying the improved work-life balance that came from remote working, of course, is another way of saying working from home. But remote is a broader category because home, I'm home right now. I'm working from home. But if I were in a hotel room in another city, but I was recording this lesson, I'm not technically working from home because I don't live in that hotel in a different city, but I am working remotely. So working from home is a category of remote work. Says Paul Lewis, Chief Marketing Officer at Adzuna. As a result, companies are desperate to find new and unique ways to lure employees back. Lure is another way of saying tempt, to tempt. The definitions are slightly different between tempt and lure, but they have the same overall meaning. To lure is to persuade someone to do something or go somewhere. To persuade someone is to try to convince someone, to try to get someone to do something or to go somewhere, usually by offering them something. Hey, if you come to the restaurant with me, I'll buy you lunch. I'm trying to lure you to the restaurant with me. I'm trying to tempt you to come to the restaurant with me. So they're very similar. Tempt to me is more common because honestly, when I hear lure, we generally use it in a more negative situation. For example, the man lured the child into his van, and then obviously something negative happened, right? So when I hear lure, there's usually a negative result as that person is persuaded to go somewhere or do something. Or the scammer lured me in and then stole all my money. So although the meanings are generally the same, I specifically hear tempt more in negative context. Use more when the result is negative. And in the news, often the result can be very negative, talking about murder or death, for example. But tempt is generally more neutral. I don't hear it specifically used in negative. And when I hear the word tempt, I don't think instantly of negative news stories. So because of that, I would probably just use the word tempt. At central London-based financial planning firm First Wealth, ooh, that was a mouthful. So at the company First Wealth, and this is just information about them. Where are they located? They're located in central London. That's where they're based. Based is another word for located. We're a Canadian-based company. We're a North American-based company. We're a central London-based company. And then, well, what type of company? A financial planning firm. Firm is just another word for company, commonly used with financial services, lawyers, very specific companies, but it's just another word for company. At central London-based financial planning firm First Wealth. That's a mouthful. At the company First Wealth, workers are being tempted back. Again, tempted back. So they are trying to convince them to do something. Attempt to convince someone to do something. back via free sessions at a nearby gym. So this is the perk, the free sessions at a nearby gym. This is a perk, an example of a perk. Let me write this here, perk. This is a perk. I wrote it as a full sentence because this is a noun. So I want you to see that as the singular noun, you need the article. This is a perk. But of course, with plural nouns, we don't use the article. So I could say these are perks. Now, of course, this is just one perk, so we need more than one, but I'm just showing you grammatically, we don't need that article here, but because this is singular, we need that article. So how about this as a perk? Would this tempt you to go back to the office if you got free sessions at a gym, so free gym membership? Beauty treatments are another incentive that companies are booking to get their staff excited about coming into the office. So this is another perk. This is a perk. And the perk is beauty treatments. That's an interesting one. I can't imagine what kind of beauty treatments you would get. I guess it's not in the office. It could be after work on your lunch break. You could go get a manicure or a pedicure or whatever you want. So beauty treatments are another. You could just say are another perk. They're using the word incentive. Remember, perk is a type of incentive. Beauty treatments are another perk that companies are booking to get their staff excited about coming into the office. So you could also say that companies are booking to tempt their staff into the office. Tempt their staff into the office. And that's the end of the article. So now what I'll do is I'll go to the top and I'll read the article from start to finish, and you can follow along with my pronunciation. Pet perks tempt staff back into the office. Mr. Griffin, who is head of IT for marketing agency Rise at 7, turns up at its Sheffield headquarters with his furry friends Jesse and Oscar. Rise, allowing dogs in the office, has meant that I've been able to take both my collies in, he says. They get to meet new people, have new experiences, and I get to spend more time in work with my colleagues. It's a complete win-win situation as far as I'm concerned. Like millions of other people, Mr. Griffin got his dogs during the pandemic. With most of us home working at the time, as a result of lockdowns, there was a huge surge in pet ownership as people wanted increased companionship. While having dogs in the workplace is likely to remain a rarity, this example is part of a wider trend. Companies introducing new incentives to try to make staff happier to come into the office more often. Job search engine Adzuna says that the number of adverts that highlight in-office perks has now more than doubled since before the start of the pandemic. The increased incentives range from free exercise and language classes to complimentary food and subsidized healthcare. Employees aren't in a rush to return to the office after enjoying the improved work-life balance that came from remote working, says Paul Lewis, Chief Marketing Officer at Adzuna. As a result, companies are desperate to find new and unique ways to lure employees back to the office. At central London-based financial planning firm First Wealth, workers are being tempted back via free sessions at a nearby gym. Beauty treatments are another incentive that companies are booking to get their staff excited about coming into the office.
Amazing job with this lesson. If you're up for it, I have another lesson right here that I know you're going to love. And make sure you get your free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can get it from my website right here. And when you're ready, get started with your next lesson.